Hello and welcome back to another episode of Getting into Git Oxide. Welcome back, Sydney.
Hi, Sebastian.
I hope one day I will find some new words to start a session, but until then, it's just that. So, last time we were talking a lot about this and why it is what it is and back and forth. And I think now it's at a good state where it can stay. Short story is this thing makes assumptions about the refs actually being files on disk, and these are not always true. These aren't even always true for the reference that the head points to, because that might be only available in a packed ref, for example. That's possible. It's not necessary, and it's maybe even a bit uncommon, but it's totally possible. So that's not perfect even as it is, but it's okay. Because I think last time we didn't talk about this, but I thought I'd mention it now that I thought about it in the meantime. What happens if a file is not there? Like, we compute a file here that might not actually be there. Because here also we don't care, we don't check that, whether it's there or not. So what happens if we provide a file like this? Let's run this. And it says rerun. It says rerun if changed. And this file in particular here, the git refs heads master, this might not exist. So what does cargo do if it does not exist? Does it think it's up to date, or does it think it has to rerun? And
that's a good question.
Yeah, I don't really know either, to be honest. I just know that make, the venerable honorable make, if a file is not there that is in your source list, it will consider the output dirty. So it would, if cargo does the same thing, cargo would rebuild. Probably, I guess. So if cargo would be acting like make, if the file is not present, even though you depend on it, it would run the build. But
Okay.
maybe I'm wrong about this too. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I'm not particularly confident about what I'm saying here. So if this is the case, cargo might build too often. And if cargo wouldn't do that, if cargo would say, if the file is not there, then I can't do anything with it, then I just ignore that. Might also be valid, I guess, as a stance. Then cargo has nothing to go on whether it should rebuild or not, and might not rebuild even though it should, because maybe the value within packed refs changed. But it doesn't know about packed refs, and packed refs isn't anything we would want to put here because that affects all references that are in there. So it's, what can you do? Either you have false positives or you have false negatives, essentially. And either you build too often or you don't build often enough. And it's more of a hypothetical problem, because in that moment the master changes in a loose ref database, it will be there, it will be on disk. It will not be written into the packed refs. That's a separate step. And usually the file is always there unless you tell Git to remove the original refs after it was written into packed refs. And that's also something you have to specifically tell it. So usually it's there, but not necessarily. That's all. That's the wisdom about Git, about this. And now I guess it's the next thing to look at. Let's see how easy that's going to be.
So do you think that we should put another file check in there, like to see if it exists, or just leave it for now?
Yeah. It depends on how cargo works. I think that would need to be understood. And then we can optimize for false positives or false negatives or something, false negatives. For now, I think it will work in the common case. So I'm not unhappy about this at all. And it's kind of what Vergon already does, even though we go one step further. Like, we are already a bit better than what Vergon already does, I think. Also based on the vague memory that the head file there is not there if you have a different kind of database for references. All right, then moving on to, I think, something with timestamps. Where do we get the timestamps from? Let's run GiG-2 again. Then we should get all the variables. Okay, there is commit timestamp here. That's the only thing. Okay. Add config entries, huh? Is that this function that is called? Okay. Ooh, look at this. So there's a lot about that. It's here. It's definitely not super easy, I think. So this is the preamble, I suppose. And then we can deal with if it's a timestamp and if it's a timestamp with the current time zone. Or without time zone, I don't know. With time zone UTC. Let's see about this. Let's see what what happens. And also, if we run this, what do we get here? So whatever this is, it's 1250 here, and it's plus 000, so that's UTC time. Let's see, maybe by accident the last commit in Bergen is UTC, but that should be hours, so it's definitely not UTC. Here's Bergen. It should be this. So 850. Yeah. So that is UTC. It calculated that. So 1250 plus 8 is 850 or 2050. So that makes sense. It's also interesting. Yeah, let's dig in, but like my first intuition is, it's interesting that there is some stuff happening with chrono, because the time zone is contained within Git, right? So Git knows the time zone. If you want UTC, you just subtract the time zone essentially, and you can do this yourself. You don't need, you shouldn't need anything else for that. So let's see why chrono is needed. Maybe we can do without chrono, which I would prefer. And maybe the answer, see, so look at this. Like how this is currently done, it gets the commit time, looks at the sign, which is literally this, like plus or minus. Here, see, we've got two examples here. Minus 0500, so it's minus 5 hours, or plus 8 hours. And it literally, I mean, this is actually, sorry, maybe I'm not now making a false claim on video or for eternity, but this is not correct. And you know why I know this pretty confidently? It's this. Plus 60 times 60. Like, it assumes that, like, look, offset minutes, right? Oh no, it wants hours, but I mean, maybe I'm just not getting it. It kind of calculates the offset in hours. That's what we're seeing here, no? Minutes? No, in seconds. It calculates the seconds here. I thought it was something like about hours. Okay, I'm wrong.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So time zone offset in seconds. And then because I think Git might store the time offset in seconds. So this is seconds since epoch. And this is how, yeah, I don't know. So this offset is just the time zone offset essentially that it creates for chrono to use. And it handles the plus and minus separately by going west and east. And then what else happens? And then it either converts this back to UTC, Or, there we go. It converts this to local time. This is why it uses chrono. This is the trick here.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Because just having UTC, that's easy. Oh, no, maybe it's not. Because I don't know what this really does, but maybe that's always kind of, no, if you say UTC, then you always see UTC, right? That's the whole point of it. So that should always, no matter which computer, which time zone you run on, it should always be this number. If you run this code in your time zone, it should be 1250. But maybe not. I don't know. What if I was in another time zone? That would be interesting. But anyway, that's time zone computation. I wonder if you can skip this or make it do it differently or not. Probably not. For now, I would just use it as is. But I don't know how this response corresponds here. Interesting. Whenever time zones come into play, things get a bit more complicated, especially if there's a library that you don't really know. Changes the associated time zone. This does not change the actual date time, but will change the string representation. Okay. So look at this. Like this completely, like, see this? Like this datetime object, that's literally a naive datetime. A naive datetime, I think that's UTC. And then you have an offset. And what this does is it just seems to, it just sets the time zone essentially. TZ from UTC datetime. It just says, okay, now give me a datetime that is in that time zone. And that offset, that's actually, I'm also misreading this because that's actually the time. That's the date time.
Really?
Yeah, that's not just the time zone offset. I think that's the whole date time, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. Like then you would have some, I think. Anyway, let's take this code and let's see what the types are. It's interesting. It's already interesting. I just take everything. Sorry. In the sense of maybe I could have just done this initially and then we have some non-grayed out code to look at and can just learn from that. It might be easier, Okay. Chrono fixed offset. With this aggressive linter, I'm always afraid to import something and then there is an unused import in some of the various ways to build this, and then it doesn't build anymore. Configure grid.
You'll get screamed at.
Yeah, look at. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with this. Then it's obvious that it's gonna be used. Chrono fixed offset and timestamp. I'm just gonna put this local. Some chrono time zone, okay. Now it imported it somewhere here. Is this safe to do? Maybe it's safe to import chrono here. Yeah, let's just risk it. Okay. And that's probably chrono UTC. Oh. Yeah. I'm thinking, is this a time zone? It's in chrono source offset UTC. So it's a time zone offset, so probably that is a time zone. I was just wondering if this could be, if this could have a more meaningful name so that it's kind of obvious what we're dealing with. But then again, we say with time zone, so probably it is a time zone. Maybe I'm just overdoing it here because I'm afraid. Time zone local. Wait. Look here, like here it's an enum variant, right? That's different, yeah. And here it's a struct. Unit struct. Okay. But could I not just use the UTC variant here as well? Like here's also UTC, right? And then you could write time zone UTC. Is this right? I don't think, maybe it's not right. Chrono local, chrono UTC. And what am I importing there? Ah, see, it's the wrong thing actually. So now it's also a unit struct. That's better. Okay. Git config time zones timestamp. Okay, so local time is, I'm always afraid of that. Let's just ignore for now. Or in this case, it means probably more like this, because we want to have an exhaustive match going on here. But this is actually a date time, I believe. So let's see if that compiles. Refab, okay, we want the commit. Don't we have that already? Ah, look. Git config sha. So we want, now we would have to repeat this, huh? Wish we could. Had peel to commit in place. We can just call this again, and then we have the commit. That should be fair enough. So that becomes this, and should work fine. Because you can call that as often as you want. If it's peeled already, then it doesn't do any work. Okay. So now we have our commit. And it doesn't have add config entries. Okay, let's just... Of course. Okay. Okay. So now having to deal with time. This is unused, sorry. What is this? Maybe we can finally get an answer to that question. Mismatch types, is it that one? See, it's a date time. And that's not an offset. It's the actual date that we see
but
here.
I don't know, it first gets the offset, right? And then it takes that with the time and seconds and converts that to a timestamp.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, like, first it starts out with the offset, and from there it takes a time or puts a time in, says now you are a time at a certain offset. That makes sense. It's more like this is not an offset then, right? That's really, that confused me. I thought, why is the offset, like, why is the plus 800 so important? And what happens if you put a timestamp in there? And what, you know, I was very confused about that. So I think we should rename that. It's date. For sure. At least, so date time even. Let's use the full word there. Date and time. And then we decide whether it's a local time or UTC time. Okay, so commit time. How do we get the time? Now it's time to understand what the commit can do. Peel to commit in place. Now we know it's a commit. That's nice. We can get the tree. We can get the message. And that's about it. We can decode it. And then we can get access to the individual members. And there is no field that says anything about time. right? And why is that? Well,
but it's in there, right? Like,
yeah,
it should be in there.
Should be in there. Let's dig in. Let's do some detective work, not in IntelliJ, but here. Let's just show commit and see how that works. So there's an author, and that author is all of that plus how timestamps are encoded in Git, right? So we have this second since epoch, and then the time zone offset. And that's times. So they're kind of part of the author. You know, that's I call this author signature. So in, you know, if you just ask for time, you actually have to ask which time it's supposed to be. Is it the committer time or the author time?
What's the difference?
Yeah, good question. I tend to confuse both. Most of the time, author and committer are the same. But if you send a commit to a mailing list, for instance, then you are the author, but the one who actually commits the commit or commits the patch is somebody else because you don't actually have any write permission to that repo. And this is how the committer can be different, and the commit time can also be different. And I think that's why. But the author time would probably be the interesting one, or maybe the commit time. Let's see. How does Git2 do it? So here we say time sign, right? So it says commit, but that's the commit object. So I would expect that Git2 has two different times. There should be an author time and a commit time. So time means commit time.
Right.
Okay. And then there's probably also Git author time. No, there's no Git author time. Interesting. I mean, not that I can find it here. Okay. You can get the author, and maybe from the author, you can then get the time. Email when. Yeah, here you get the time. So there is a shortcut to commit time, which we could consider adding to Git Oxide. And yeah, it really looks like this time is like this is libgit2, right? So libgit2 has low-level access to exactly this shortcut. And it just basically does what we do here, which is gonna be, which is gonna be committer time. And now we want the sign, and it's here. And if the sign, yeah, we should be able to compare this. This is just an enumeration here. Yeah, equality comparison could do. Git thinking author, no? Yeah, where is that? But how do I get to that type? Git actor, right? Git actor. Actor signed plus. Okay. So here's the same thing in Git Oxide currently. And probably the time we need a lot, we can just keep this around. Commit time for now. And that should be that. And the rest should ideally work as before. Like we want the offset. This is in seconds, yeah? Yeah, it's in seconds. Yeah. But look, it's you don't have to do it like this because that's an I-32, and you can provide negative seconds to mean Eastern, right? So we don't have to do that in theory. Let's see. So that might be a little improvement. So how do we get more? The commit time. We have the offset, and it's an I-32 already. Nice. And
that is also the seconds.
Yes. Is it? Yeah, what is it? Is it seconds? Time offset in seconds, maybe negative. Okay, cool. So that can go away. Nice. And is there another east, west from offset? No, okay, so we have to say west, and then it kind of just ignores that and says, yeah, well, if you're negative, then I go east, actually. If it's positive, I go west.
Wasn't there a from offset method?
West opt. I should probably.
I thought I read it in the
yeah, it was there. From offset, but that one's another fixed offset. That's more like a
okay. I see.
clone thing. So now it's just about picking the right. Should we go east or west? Okay, that should be easy enough. Okay, so this is +8. And I'm in the east, right? I guess. So here the offset is indeed, yeah, so that's just that, +8. And here it says, Western hemisphere, the negative sex mean Eastern, but it's the other way around. So Eastern is positive in Git, and Western is negative. So here we would go east, and I would assume it's the other way around. The negative sex means Western hemisphere. Yes. So now that's the right way for Git.
Okay.
So here somebody is in -500, so that's the Western hemisphere, and that's minus, that's negative. And if we say east, then negative means Western. And we know that +8 is definitely Eastern, so that is the right thing. So all we would need to do, instead of duplicating all this, is do that. And that looks better to me. So we say east, give it the offset in seconds. It's not so obvious that this is seconds unless you read it. That's always a bit sad, right? Like if you don't have units there, if it's not strongly typed. It's something to potentially improve, I'm saying. It's more like, it's kind of a low-level thing here, and definitely something that could crash your rocket if you have teams from different places working together and then they mess up the unit, and
True.
Things like this have happened.
Though.
Yeah, but still, has happened, and it's crazy that this has happened. So $50 million, sorry, I have to, they are done. So because we had to use I-32 instead of a proper unit, but it's C code, so I guess it's a different world anyway. But we could do better, just for the record. Okay, and then the timestamp, and what does that do? Ah, look. Number of seconds since 1970. And that's exactly what this is. So we can probably do the same. Nanoseconds, we don't have that position. Commit time. Time. Just to be sure, time in seconds from epoch. So that's that. But U32, and it has here I64. That's fair. It supports negative times somehow. It does not declare why it would support negative seconds here, does it? Like, you can go back from 1970. Can you? Is this what it does? Anyway, let's make it I-70, I-64. We are never negative. Seems fair. No nanosecond position. Seems fair too. Yeah, that's our daytime here. That's that. And in theory, the rest should just work as before because all the time zone magic is done with chrono. I just like to understand this. This is why I was so afraid. But in theory, there's nothing to be afraid of. Chrono does it for you. We call it daytime. And we can just add this back. Oh no, we can't. we do not have add config entries. What does that do? It deals with display here, see? And look at this, it doesn't have any type that is GiG-2 specific. See? So we can just reuse this. I mean, we don't have to.
This doesn't have to go into the feature block.
Yeah, this can be outside and it can be present whenever there's GiG-2 or GiG-oxide. And add date entry. This is called from there, so we would have these two. One more thing. Let me get some screen space here. Just checking, where's add date entry called? Is this just called from inside? Add config entries. Look, this is just called from inside. See? So I'm willing to make this refactoring and just put this inside here. See? Okay, so that should still build now. Let's run GiG-2. And GiG-2 works just fine. And now we can take the whole thing. Oh, add time entry. We have that too.
Another one.
And that's the same thing, I guess, the same principle. Let's drop that here. And now it's nicely localized to where it's needed, still compiles and works. And now for the build flags. Oh no, wait, did I miss another one? A timestamp entry. Yeah. Okay, I missed another one. Alright, but that seems to be it now, right? That seems to be really it. And if not, we will know. Once we transplanted this to somewhere on top, it wouldn't find that. All right.
The reason you shoved them all into this one function now? Or couldn't you just pushed it up like that?
Yes, but wait for it. Now that we put it up there, it's outside of both impl blocks for both Git2 and GiG-oxide.
Oh, so the imports would have been messed up?
Yeah, imports are now definitely messed up, but also now we have to add our own config flags here that are working for either of them. Basically like this, but without the not, I guess. And then, yeah, you only want to do that for one function, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, see, now we have to, it's basically this again. Now we have to go through all that mess to not, because otherwise, you know, because this CI tests so thoroughly and tests all possible combinations. And with these lins, it's just nuts. Like, you have to be very, very careful with your imports. It does not,
this way. Yeah.
Yeah, it really, yeah. Honestly, this is borderline, to me, it's borderline. It's just too much for me. I wouldn't do it. It's, add entry, where's that coming from? We import it here, so we can import that into that function itself. Everything that's outside, that's probably chrono date time. We can do that. And inside we can import it safely without the linter barking, because once this is getting compiled, it's definitely needed. Okay, so use chrono date time, time zone. What else? IntelliJ tries to catch up, right? Right? Okay. Am I wrong or is IntelliJ wrong? I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I mean, this should work. If it's in scope, it should be picking this up. It should be picking this up. Okay, let's just ignore that. Time zone and date time is there. Virgin key, create, where is that from? Create config virgin key. Okay, does it pick that up? Ah, now it picks it up. Look at that. Whoa, that was yeah. You don't hear the fans, and you don't see the CPU usage, and you don't feel a slowdown. But probably 1 or 2 CPUs are constantly burning to try to catch up with that stuff. All right. Oh, this is dangerous. Remember, getting the right config because it gets renamed somewhere.
True.
I do remember that whenever I import anything from this grade, I'm now, oh, wait, which one? I don't know which one. I don't know which one. Let's go down here. Oh, it's create config. Okay. And that's that. So in theory, that's now fully self-sustaining and should only build if there is either or any of Git oxide or Git. Yes, we have Git oxide, we have Git, okay. And now, because it's not down there anymore, if I try to build Git 2, it should fail because it doesn't have that. But we import that again. Use super, add config entries, and that should always be present if we are being built. And the same thing goes for here. You can just get that back. That's called datetime. Yeah, right. Now these have to come back, and this has to come back. Okay. See, now that I do my imports manually, this means I'm somehow afraid. Usually I just say import it for me, but I'm too afraid. I'd rather do it by hand and know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
But only in this case, it's the first time I do this. And that means something. So, local. Huh? But doing this by hand also kind of helps you to memorize the things that are exported by crate. There's never anything wrong about memorization. You know,
yeah, you get to know the structure as well.
Yeah, it helps.
It is helpful.
I was working with somebody who would not use any copy paste and instead writing everything down and memorize this. And yeah, he would get fast at this, and I see the point. But I'm too lazy most of the time, so I don't do this. But my memory definitely isn't great also for that reason, because I don't train it very much. Okay, so what's going on here? Add config entries. Unnecessary qualification, because this is actually there. Wow, look at this linter here. Unused qualifications. Amazing.
You're being too precise.
It is correct. Ooh. Unused imports. Okay, now Git is not used anymore because we moved that elsewhere. Unused imports, that's fair. It usually is not an error, but that's fair. So date time and timestamp kind. Chrono date time. So that's coming from Git here because all these moved up and out. What are we building? Git 2 is now building and it's still yielding the same result. And now let's remember this should be the same with Git oxide now. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, right. Interesting. I copied too... No, huh? What?
Really?
Did I copy too much? Why is this... I think I did copy too much. Yes, I did copy too much. This is not... This is the old... This is something else. Look, actually, yeah, we changed the code here. This is... If there's a timestamp needed or SHA, then it does this. But we have the SHA code up here. And here is where we get the commit. So we get the commit twice currently. We could refactor that to only get it once. And we shall do that in a moment. Oh. Okay, so now it's just the timestamp stuff left, but this also means that this is not needed here.
Why did he group this together? Just also to get the commit only once as an optimization, or is there any other reason?
I'd say, I mean, the Git code down there probably did it because of that. Yeah, and we didn't do it because we started with SHA-1 and then everything was lost. And now we just continue with this. And look, now this is kind of a double if, right? We don't need that double if. Oh, that's interesting. It's not the same. Oh no, wait, it's build timestamp and it's commit timestamp. Okay, sorry. Looked at the wrong thing. Because I built the wrong thing, I want to build just Git oxide and now we don't get these extra variables. Yeah. That's right.
That looks good.
And we could also try the other one, like how does it look with local? And the question is still, do we need chrono here at all? But probably we do. If it's supposed to be local time, because then it converts that offset that we have to your local time. So my 8 p.m. is then your 12 p.m.
12
p.m. Yeah. 20 minus 8. It's a bit rough. That it's something you have to think about. But yeah, the time of doing anything in your head is kind of over. It's probably an interesting philosophical question. Will people of the future know less and less because they're super dependent on their AI-based everything and they're kind of dumb by themselves, but they know how to use the tools, which kind of makes them appear smart, but take away the tools and they can do nothing? Is this going to be us?
The window of intelligence just shifts forward, essentially.
Yes. It's probably going to be like this. And do I consider myself a bit stupid because I can't do math in my head anymore? Yes, a little bit, but also I'm lazy and I don't need to do it. Right? It's probably exactly what's, I mean, to me, it's going to happen for sure. Hey, Siri, what is my agenda today? Tell me what to do. Yeah, you get dressed and then better buy some groceries because you will have to make lunch later. Things like that. So, yeah, that looks good. I guess the refactoring we can do right away just by doing this. If that or that, and then we can just remove this and put that one level up. And now this is just empty. Okay. Something wrong with my mouse here. It seems to constantly be clicking. I keep, okay. Let me turn it off and on again. it's still definitely, oh, okay, no, it's back. No, it's normal, sorry. Yeah, so that still seems to be working. So the double duplication we can just ignore. So the first part here, that's the one. Okay. So what if we invert this just to see a different number here? Yeah, that's correct. So for me, it's +8, so it converts +8 to +8. So I think for you, you would see something along the lines of 1250 or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what Chrono does here. And that's why it's there. Cool. Yeah, so how does that look like to you? What opportunities do we have here?
Good. I mean, the only thing is the like on the GiG-18 side, right? How to get the time. That could be maybe a bit easier, as it's maybe a bit more oriented at GiG-2.
I agree. I could imagine. I mean, we have to decode it, unless it's probably something you want to do a lot. So maybe we can even leave. So yeah, okay. Organize your thoughts before you speak. So I was thinking maybe like this, and there's merit to this, but why decode it first? Like who gets that? And like I think we talked about that before, that decoding implicitly costs you a decode every time, and that is costly. Yeah. But for common use, I guess it doesn't matter.
And I also remember last time, I think we opted for the simpler version, just because it is simpler, and if you do want to use the more efficient version, then you would dig in.
Yes.
We had this discussion.
Yes. I think the same holds, right? The same argument still holds. It's valid. It's good that we can recall it and come to the same conclusion, which means it's probably not entirely wrong. And I'd say this is the goal here. And we have to use question mark because it decodes under the hood. It's lazily decoded. And this means for us, just put it on top of the commit object. Should be easy enough. Oh no, I was constantly not showing the video, by the way. Now I finally show it. That's a bit of that was more of a podcast kind of thing. Okay.
More code to see.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I was quite happy with that, to be honest, because I didn't have to move the picture around all the time. But here we are. Commit. Oh, really? What? Easy object. Commit. Here we are. And here we have a bunch of ways to access this. I think it's just like that here, huh? We can get the message, have a decode error, and we can, yes, I want to edit this. I think that's my local copy still. Time, parse the commit message into a commit message. No, pass, decode the commit and obtain the time at which the commit was created. Yeah, that's the commit creation time, not the author time. And then I think it's good actor. Good actor time. Like that. Decode error. Committer time. Yep. That's it.
Really do it.
That will do. For the time at which it was authored, refer to decode and then author time. That also looks pretty good. It's more of a niche thing, I guess, but yeah, for those, you can just do it like this. And those who want to show a lot of data anyway, they will have to decode first, or they probably decode first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that this is really to be on par with GiG-2, no matter the cost. And if speed matters to you, you do it a bit differently. Okay, that's fair. Because also decoding is so fast, it's really just nothing to really talk about. Once you measure that you're decoding, that calls to decode slow you down, then yeah, you're doing a lot of commit handling. I think you will usually not measure that. Anyway, let's go back and see if that works. It's visible. Commit time. Yeah, I do assign it to a variable here though, because otherwise it would definitely be rather expensive and kind of cluttered. And it does compile. It does work. And that's pretty cool. And overall, I think definitely an improvement.
Yeah.
Even though, look at this, like this duplication here, like what prevents you from just storing this reference? Because this is something that implements time zone, huh? So we should be able to do something like this. Let time zone be that, whatever comes out of here, and then we call this with the result, with the time zone. Okay, and now we just have to figure out how to return the time zone like this. Like that. And now it will probably tell you, it's different types. It doesn't work. It will not work. Because it's distinct types, right? It's either that or it's that.
Oh, yeah, of course. You'd need a generic return type, right?
Yeah, something with traits for sure. But we know already what kind of trait we have to go for. And it's, of course, a trait object that we need. So we need a reference to a chrono time zone. And we want to show that this is a trait object, so doing as a keyword. And we have to make sure it's a reference, so it must be borrowed. And now this is like a virtual function call, it's either calling this or calling this. But it doesn't have to be statically known. It's just at runtime, it decides what kind of backing is behind that. And that should... What? Oh, what happened here? Hey, pin. Okay, a lot of breakage. Let's take it apart. Unused qualifications. Okay. Again.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So time zone is more complicated. It has a, how do you call it? An associated type, exactly, an associated type. And you have to specify what kind of type that's supposed to be. But I think besides that, it's object safe. So you can turn this time zone into a trait object. This is what object safe means. But you have to fully specify the type. So you want to say offset is, I think it's fixed offset. And I don't know if that works because I don't really see fixed offset here, but I think UTC is implemented for, oh, look here. That's, no, not gonna work.
That's different ones.
Different ones. Yeah. It's probably different ones. I mean, let's try it, but I think this is why it's not possible. Okay. It can't be because it's not object safe actually. Not object safe. Okay, and this is why it's done the way it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, let's undo. Oh. Okay. Now it's back. It's interesting because we also had this enumeration, remember? Maybe the enumeration can also be used because these things, they seem overkill for this. We accidentally imported an enum. And I really think this enum should work because why would it be there? Let's try it. Chrono time IntelliJ, you tell me. It doesn't import anymore because it's already imported. Ah, damn it. Chrono time zone. Offset. Oh. No, but it did have it. Let's see if I can trigger that. UTC is, yeah, I can't trigger it while these things are there. And I don't know how to find it. Let's just go through the pane and remove that. Oh man. Here. Sorry that took a long time here, given that it's a simple edit. UTC. Now tell me which one. Okay, we have oh, this is why. This is in Vergen here. And I didn't see it because that particular, the file name itself is hidden by a zoom control by default. Or I moved it there, I don't know. It's, yeah, not chrono. Okay, this is why. Okay. Okay, there's no way around. I give up. That would have been nice. That would have been really nice. But wait, there's... No, look, there's no way because this is now statically typed, right? This is actually part of the type and there's either that or that. You can't mix them by accident and that is probably the point of this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's all generic here. That's why I need two calls for that. And that's that. There's no dynamic time zone or something, apparently. Or I don't get it. But yeah, at least some sort of improvement could be made. That's already nice. Okay. Like this. Okay. Cool. But that's it.
Nice.
That's the time zone stuff. This is all. This completes it. The only thing that's left is now short IDs.
Yes.
That's a big one to chunk up into 1 hour sessions at most. Speaking of, we are at 1 hour already, so I think that's a good time to conclude this session and say, wow, the next ones are going to be interesting. So tune in, and it's another time for getting into GiG-18. Thanks a lot. And bye-bye.